Yes, sir. My Tricka. Back up in this thing, man. Today, we'll be breaking down some creepy TikToks that'll make you wish you never opened Pandora's box. Let's do it.
Iceland has now raised its aviation alert as it evacuates people in the path of a possible volcanic eruption. The orange alert indicates an increased risk of an eruption. Authorities also evacuated the town of Grindavik after they determined that a corridor of magma or semi-molten rock now extends under the community. The coastal area, known for its Blue Lagoon geothermal resort, has been shaken by hundreds of earthquakes in the last few weeks.
I'm glad they were able to evacuate everybody early, because if there's been hundreds of earthquakes over the past couple of weeks, then we might not be able to recognize this area after this one, not to mention the steam coming from the cracks.
A lot of companies that have like stars in their logo are related to Masonic symbols.
Yeah, like the Freemasons?
Yeah, so you worship like the bright sun or the bright star, and every logo that you see around, like Carl's Jr., the Sirius FM dog, he has a star.
Oh, it's a star.
The NFL logo, there's a bunch of stars. Everything has a star in it. Mazda, it's an owl. The owl is the Illuminati. HBO, if you turn it down, it's an owl.
No, it's not. Let me see.
Whoa! What the
Yo, I didn't take that in.
And then Taco Bell. Taco Bell is Masonic. Watch. You see the reptile eye?
Yo!
Like, a star is a very common symbol, so there's going to be a lot of companies that incorporate it into their branding that are not all affiliated with any other groups, but I'll never be able to unsee the reptile eye and the Taco Bell sign.
There was this documentary that came out, and it was all about unrelated identical twins. They like brought in 10 or so people that literally looked identical twins, but they're not related at all.
Doppelganger.
They would do a face scanning, and like their faces would like match up like 90%. They also said it's estimated that with every face, there are 7 matches in the world.
Wow.
So there's like 6 of you in the world that look like you.
So we're not even unique.
No. Apparently not.
That's wild.
I guess it kind of makes sense though, because you've seen those like celebrities, like Nicolas Cage, how he like there's a guy from way back and it looks just like him.
Yeah.
And how Taylor Swift looks like the satanic leader.
Spooky.
Like it looks a lot like it.
Having 6 doppelgangers out there in the age of facial recognition makes me nervous, bro. I'm not trying to get stopped at the airport for something Brazilian my Tricka did. Either there's some water flowing towards the drain to create that whirlpool effect, or the whole house was just moving in a circular motion.
So it had your own secret passageway into the Playboy mansion.
No.
Is that true?
Well, I think the story was printed that there was a tunnel.
Playboy.com staff members released some blueprints that they found a few years ago that show underneath the Playboy mansion is a series of tunnels that were constructed to link Hugh Hefner's world-famous domicile to the homes of Jack Nicholson, James Caan, Kirk Douglas, and Warren Beatty. The blueprints, which show that the construction project was built in the 70s and 80s, were discovered in the Playboy archives by staff writers looking for a juicy story, kept under wraps for so many years. Everyone knows Nicholson and company were up to no good back in the day. They were the bad boys of Tinseltown and lived a free and loose life. It's fascinating to think what those tunnels might have been used for.
You might need to seek help if you spend that much time at the mansion. You require a direct tunnel system, bro. That's just like getting a reserved parking space at the Gentleman's Club. Maybe that's some cleaning jelly.
You ever wondered why we wink to convey secret knowledge or hidden meaning? This gesture originates from the Norse myth regarding the god Odin, who sacrificed one of his eyes to obtain secret knowledge. The closing of one eye represents detachment from our subjective viewpoint, so that we may examine information objectively to obtain and discern the truth.
Kind of sounds like it could also be linked to one-eye Illuminati symbolism, bro. I guess everything just has a secret meaning.
In the 1970s, the CIA's Office of Research and Development developed a micro-unmanned aerial vehicle that they called the Insectithopter. It was designed as a proof of concept, showcasing the agency's ability to produce miniaturized platforms for intelligence collection. The original device was disguised as a bumblebee, but the Dragonfly design was much easier to maneuver. The Insectithopter was actually actually gas-powered, using a tiny engine to move the wings up and down, venting the exhaust out the back, using it as thrust to maneuver the vehicle. The flight tests were apparently very impressive. However, any sort of crosswind was disastrous for the tiny device, though I'm sure they totally shelved that and don't have anything similar 50 years later, right? Well, 10 years ago, in 2013, the Harvard Robotics Lab had successful test flights with robots half the size of a paperclip, using laser-cut components and micro-machined wings that flapped 120 times per second, that were activated by an electromagnetic field. Of course, the applications of the Harvard experiments were purely philanthropic. Things like environmental monitoring, search and rescue, and pollination. But there are tons of anecdotal sightings of drone-like insects, like this one, where a couple canoed a little too close to a military research area, and a large, very loud dragonfly landed on the canoe and observed them for several minutes before flying away. In 2007, sightings of insect drones were publicized when Vanessa Alarcon, a university student who was working at an anti-war rally in Washington, D.C., reported to the Washington Post that her attention was caught by someone in the crowd saying, "Oh my God, what is that?" They were pointing up, and when she looked up, she explained what she saw. Quote, "They looked like dragonflies or little helicopters."
Safe to say I don't trust dragonflies anymore, bro. Now every time I see one, I'm gonna be looking at it with the side eye. It could just be a string tied to it and somebody's pulling it, but it kind of looks like a spirit that's excited to see the family.
We're teaching remote viewing to a police department?
I've taught it to several police departments, yeah.
Currently? You still do that?
No.
Why were police departments reaching out to you to learn about remote viewing?
Well, back when the book, which I hate the title of, Psychic Warrior, first came out, it drew a lot of attention because it was the first time that anybody had connected the dots to the military intelligence community and then this very bizarre, controversial intelligence collection methodology called remote viewing, which that's the first time the phrase was ever used, remote viewing. Those were coined by Ingo Swann.
This is the exact premise of the movie Minority Report, where they could see crime before it happened, bro. I just hope they have to obtain warrants for this too.
Yes, that's an ice cream machine. But wait, it gets worse. You can see all the mold as the machine is taken apart. But it's what they find inside that turns my stomach inside out. They find maggots inside the ice cream machine.
This makes me actually appreciate how much Mickey D's cleans their ice cream machine. I mean, you're never gonna get a comb, but at least there's no maggots in it.
So you want to know more about Tesla and the earthquake? Oh, that's good. That's real good. Alright, listen to this. Nikola Tesla's earthquake machine. Oh. In 1896, Tesla was working on oscillators to be used for energy transfer. The idea was to create an oscillator able to create various frequencies. In 1897, the device was ready, and in 1898, he supposedly managed to oscillate his laboratory at 48 Houston Street, New York, enough that it alarmed the neighbors and they called the police. Tesla's electromechanical oscillator is a steam-powered electric generator. This is a blueprint of that same device, and this is the mechanical oscillator designed by Nikola Tesla, which is being held in the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade.
If this was invented over 120 years ago, I'm sure by now it's been re-engineered to be much more powerful, bro. Hart probably got several industrial size ones right now.
And Baron James, who was head of the Paris branch and the youngest of the 5 sons of our actual Rothschild, gave an astonishingly uninhibited description of the 19th century Rothschild policy of keeping it in the family. I'll quote to you from what he wrote and make you smile. In our family, we've always tried to keep love in the family. In this sense, it was more or less understood since childhood that children would never think of marrying outside the family so that our fortune would never leave it. You couldn't write that today.
He probably should have kept that story in the family like everything else, apparently.
I truly believe in the word abracadabra. You know what abracadabra means?
Yeah. I don't.
As I speak, I create. It's an Aramaic word. You would think, it's just like funny business, but it's actually, there's so much magic going on. And our words are spells. That's why they call it spelling. So we have to be careful what we say. We could use it for good or we could use it for bad. And if you ever Google image the word abracadabra, you would think you saw like magic trick stuff. All you see is upside down triangles. What is an upside down triangle? It is the symbol for manifestation. So with that being said, I told my friend Scott, I'm going to run for president one day and I'm going to run on a first name basis. It's going to be like Oprah. Next day, I get a phone call from Fadia Cater. She works at Instagram. I had just got back on Instagram after a year hiatus when I left the music industry. She says, Charlie, I got a gift for you. I said, what is it? She said, I'm just really inspired by what you're doing. Check your DMs, hit accept, change the password, etc. She sent me the freaking name at Charlie. I called my boy Scott up. I said, you won't believe this shit. They just gave it to me. Abracadabra.
This is a similar instance to the winking clip where I'm sure we've all said abracadabra before, but I don't know too many people that actually know the meaning behind it.
Dress of hat that the Pope wears is impacted by a god named Dagon. Dagon was a god of the Philistines, and Dagon comes from the word dag, which means fish. So now we see the Pope's headdress. On the top is the Pope's mitre. But when turned, you then see he's actually wearing a fish head, the fish god Dagon, because he's representing the worship of an ancient Phoenician god.
I mean, it's the Vatican, so you never know. But if it is true, then this is hypocrisy at its finest because it directly contradicts everything they stand for when it comes to idol worship.
Yacht just dropped a trailer for a new album or song or whatever it is, and I'm telling you, this is the definition of hidden in plain sight.
Style security solution. Do you ever feel alone? Feel like if you disappeared, no one would notice? Well, thankfully, it's time for a change. Welcome to 2093, where Lifestyle Corporation's state-of-the-art surveillance is your friend. That's right. No more worrying about vandalism or theft. We respond to any sign of crime immediately. Someone you love gone missing? Forget it. We track every footstep they make year-round. Perhaps you wonder if your employees are working while you're away. Our most advanced life cams are on every wall of your workplace, as well as our military-grade cloaking technology, so no one will ever know they're being watched. Let's face it, everyone, privacy is a thing of the past. So sit back, relax, and know you are in good hands. Lifestyle is here for you, and we are always watching.
I'm not sure how you're supposed to be excited to hear any music after this because it had the opposite effect on me, bro. It feels like an MK Ultra training tape.
What the? What is that?
What the? I'm loading up the U-Haul and moving out that night, bro.
All of these astronauts right here are Freemasons. Got Armstrong at the top, Buzz Aldrin right here, and all these other people. And the list keeps on going. All Freemasons. See, the first Mason on the moon, and the member of Apollo 11, had an extraordinary journey as a man and as a Freemason. John Glenn, 33rd degree Mason. Luther B. Turner, it says his lodge number 732 in Columbus. Crimson attended at Mitchell Lodge, number 228. You can literally go search it up on Google. They are all Freemasons. There go Buzz Aldrin right there, Freemason, first man on the moon. All Freemasons, and it just keeps on going. All of them.
We know Masons are the best in the world at keeping secrets, so if this is true, this is only gonna make people even more skeptical about the moon landing. That might have been real, because I don't know anybody that'll lock themselves in a trash can as a prank, bro. That's the real life Oscar the Grouch.
Well, I will say there's been 2 days that have been kind of cool, but other than that, it's too much. It's like I went with this one guy, and he just he looked like a lizard. I was so scared. He was sitting there, and I turned him. I was like, oh my god! I was like, holy! He looks just like a lizard, and I had to go. It was really bad.
So you just left? Wow.
Immediately.
Well, no one's going to judge you for that. But I need to ask, which one of your friends set you up with the lizard man?
I know. I was so mad. I called him. I was very angry.
And did you say he's a lizard?
Yes. And he said, oh my god, his pictures, I guess it's just he doesn't look that in the picture.
So who are you looking for? What are you...
She didn't stutter at all when she was telling the story, and she wasn't really laughing like that, bro. This might have been her way of telling us without saying too much.
It was wild that I didn't know how close my own wife was to the Clintons.
That you were married to her?
And well, I was married to her.
How close was she to the Clintons?
I mean, cell phone away, or hey, tell Ye to say this away.
This is a prime example of why it's smart to date somebody for a while and really get to know them, because I don't like surprises. The ocean is the last place I would want to be during an earthquake, bro. I would have to hang up the snorkel for good after this.
I did some investigation into the derivation of the North American, European, for that matter, public education system, and found out that it was based on the Prussian model. And the Prussians produced a universal education system in the late 1800s because they were afraid they were losing military superiority, and they wanted to produce a cadre of mindless, obedient soldiers. That was expressly the purpose. And then that model was adopted by prototypical in the U.S., again in the late 1800s. This is before Mussolini and all of that time. Corporate types mostly, who wanted to produce cadres of obedient workers. And that's why the desks are in rows, and that's why there's factory bells, and that's why it's top-down leadership. But what was really stunning about that wasn't only that that was the model, but it's worse than that, because the people who built the schools were consciously aiming at eradicating the will of the students who were part of the system, because they wanted them to be obedient.
Rockefeller was quoted as saying he wants a nation of workers and not a nation of thinkers, and no politicians back then saw it as a red flag.
On my left, we have the Luna Vasahi Temple. On my right, the Large Hadron Collider. What you are seeing is the prophetic fusion of art and science invented by the Indus Valley culture. That carving is on a ceiling, and in their land you will find many of these mysterious carvings that nobody can explain. That stone ball is a different stone. That is a stone chain. That's an iron pillar that hasn't rusted for 1,600 years. That temple is carved out of the side of a mountain. That temple is the most detailed thing I've ever seen. I showed you how they encoded the acoustic knowledge into their stone pillars. But those pillars also have gear ratios, like a transmission, with perfect symmetry. Some of them even spin. There are even some you can play like a musical instrument. Their architecture resembles modern acoustic technology that has just recently been invented. The precision of their carvings rivals that of aerospace engineering. And instead of writing all this down, they encoded all of this knowledge about the physical world into their walls. We are still discovering secrets hidden in these temples to this day. Now, I don't know if their temples were particle accelerators, but there is a reason why there is a Shiva statue outside of CERN. To my Indus friends in the East and the ones here in the States, happy Diwali. We appreciate the light.
Maybe the reason why CERN threw that strange opening ceremony and they erected this statue of Shiva is because they actually got the blueprints for the Hadron Collider from these temples.
Talk about like secret societies, and I think it's like, it's not like this formed meeting. It's just like like-minded individuals, like people who operate on the same frequency. There doesn't have to be this written rule book. It's just like, oh no, we intuitively, we move like this. We gravitate towards certain things. And it's unfortunate because people who operate in low frequency, that it's the same way.
Sounds like he pretty much just admitted to being in a secret society, bro. That explanation didn't help his case at all.
Now this is a creepy situation. I'm gonna show you guys a video of a security guard who was working the night shift at a condo. They spotted this dude over here walking around the condo. They don't know who he is, they didn't see him come in, so they go about trying to find him with their motorbikes, him and his buddy. They don't find the guy anywhere, he's nowhere to be found. Timestamps are working fine, cameras are working fine. So they go back to the CCTV camera to see where this guy was, and this is what happened. Check this out.
Ahí, póngale. Miren, este personaje nos tiene volando este muchacho. Yo lo saludé de frente y se me hizo normal. Después el personal de monitoreo me llama que hay una persona sospechosa. Nos dirigimos al punto a ver dónde se encuentra y ahorita no lo hallamos. Pero ahorita verificando en cámara, miren lo que sucede. Ahí está el muchacho. Está caminando, hay un vallado aquí al costado derecho. Al costado derecho hay un vallado. Se le hizo raro por la hora. ¿Qué hora transcurría en ese entonces? 12 y 22. 12 y 22 de la noche. 12 y 28. Ahí va el muchacho, mírenlo bien. Miren lo que sucede ahorita mismo. Ahí va caminando. Mira un celular porque yo lo saludé, él iba con el celular atendiendo una llamada. Se me hizo normal, pero ahorita ya la novedad se extendió. Se desaparece. Vemos la grabación transcurriendo. Ahí está transcurriendo el tiempo. Aquí dice el tiempo. 5, 6, 7. La grabación continúa.
The video could have been edited to look like security camera footage, but there were also multiple cameras, so I'm not sure about that. He just pulled a beam me up Scotty.
I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all?
Ronald Reagan made allusions to alien forces not once, but 5 different times, including a speech before the United Nations.
And why did he say that 5 times? Once, it's a nice figure of speech, but he said it in the United Nations. He said it to Gorbachev in Geneva. Gorbachev responded, saying he didn't disagree with him. He said it at a high school in Maryland. Why bring that up unless there was some reason for bringing it up?
Friedman says Reagan also dropped hints in private about UFOs. One such incident occurred following a special White House screening of the movie E.T. The story was related to others by producer Steven Spielberg.
When the showing was over, Reagan got up, put his hand on Steve's shoulder, and said, you know, fewer than 6 people in this room know the whole story. Now, I have a close colleague that got that direct from Steve.
Maybe he knew something or had an encounter and just wanted to warn the public, but this could also be the start of the Project Bluebeam conditioning.
An Indian man has grown rice on his head. He is a famous ascetic in the area. To ensure better growth for the rice, he has developed the habit of sleeping while sitting up. He can sense when the rice is in need of water through the skin of his scalp. When his scalp feels dry, he waters his head, leading to a bountiful growth of rice. At harvest time, he gathers the rice to make a delicious meal and then replants it, continuing this cycle for decades. Some may find his actions foolish, but he explains that his head is a symbol of vitality, beyond the understanding of ordinary people. When a reporter asked to see under his turban, the ascetic agreed, and they saw how the rice roots were intertwined with his hair without causing him discomfort. Perhaps this is his way of spiritual practice. Some people are very interested in the rice on his head and have offered money for it, which angers the ascetic, as he sees it as a sign of disrespect. The ascetic agreed to the interview because he wanted the world to know that rice can be grown on one's head and to inspire others to have strong physiques like his. What are your thoughts on this?
It's amazing that he just discovered an alternative farming method, but my barber would lose it if I walked in looking like this, bro. He had to go get the weed whacker.
In Denisova Cave, they find a single pinky bone from a little finger, and they do DNA testing on it, and what they discover is this isn't a Neanderthal. This isn't an anatomically modern human being. This is another human species who they named the Denisovans. It's another example of a missing chapter in the human story that is beginning to be pieced together. It's obvious now that we were not alone, that there were multiple other human species, and Denisovan DNA survives. Interestingly enough, it survives predominantly in Australasia. in Papua New Guinea and amongst Australian Aborigines.
And this Denisovan species was only discovered in, like, was it 2000 something?
Very recently, the 2000s.
7 or something.
It's a very recent discovery.
If we only discovered this in the 2000s, then that means that every anthropology book, history book, and science book before that touched on that subject was incorrect. This is why we constantly have to question.
This is the 1876 Centennial International Exposition in Philadelphia. This was the first official World's Fair to be held in the U.S., complete with even the Statue of Liberty's head and arm, where you can actually climb up inside there. Now, like the narrative behind all these amazing World's Fairs, it only lasted 6 months, from May up until November. Now, they are telling us that this whole World's Fair, with its over 200 buildings, took just under 2 years to construct. Now, all of these structures, inside and out, does any of this look temporary to you? They claim that over 10 million people visited this World's Fair in its 6-month span. Can you see those free energy towers working here? Magically, all this built before the first power tool in 1889 was even invented. 284 acres, 200 buildings, less than 2 years, no problem apparently. But check out some of these unique free energy antennas you'll see on top of the horticulture building here. Yep, this whole massive palace was a horticulture building with a second floor promenade. And those ether antennas, I kid you not, they tell us those are just ornamented flagpoles. I have so much more on this, it'll definitely warrant a part 2. With that said, question everything, friends. Until next time.
Every builder back in the day must have been a master craftsman, because even their temporary buildings that only took 2 years to build look better than our permanent buildings do today.
Halloween has come and gone, but a squirrel in Ohio is still enjoying the holiday. That's right. That is the squirrel we're talking about. Look at the size.
My.
So how did this squirrel get so huge, and what does it have to do with Halloween? Well, the woman who shot this video says the squirrel has been hanging out in her yard for weeks, gorging on her pumpkins. And she says he looks so and happy and probably going to have a very comfortable winter.
Looks like he ate a whole pumpkin.
I think I know his New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Forget surviving through the winter. He packed on enough weight to last through the ice age. But with that being said, guys, that was the video. Thank you for coming to kick it with me. Let me know what you guys thought about these creepy TikToks in the comments below. And until next time, y'all take care of yourself.